Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the Mental Health Mentor. If you don't know, the Mental Health Mentor is the official talk show of Mindful and Melanated. And if you don't know, Mindful and Melanated is the online community for everything health and wellness, mental health and wellness for Black women. And if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. We're gonna just keep it real up in here. We ain't got no teleprompters up in here. So if you don't know, my name is Regina Renaye, aka Regina the Mindfulnista. I'm your host, your homie, your friend, maybe your foe. I don't know. And I am the founder of Mindful and Melanated. If you are not already part of our Mindful and Melanated online community in our sister circle, I encourage you to join us via Patreon. You could do that via www.patreon.com/mindful and melanated. And I will make sure the links are in the captions and the description if you're watching this on the replay on YouTube. Now today is a very special episode of the Mental Health Mentor because I get to interview a really good friend today, and she's going to be talking about a very important topic: productivity and accountability. All right. So before I bring my friend on, I just want to talk about why we are interviewing a productivity and accountability coach when this is a mental health podcast talk show during Mental Health Awareness Month. But hear me out. So I'm going to read some stats here. So a study published in the American Journal of Public Health found that Black women are more likely to experience depressive symptoms than white women, but we are less likely to seek mental health support. Now, this could be for a number of reasons. It could be stigma, it could be the cause, it could be cultural barriers, or it could be we just ain't got no time for that. Right? Let's just keep it real. Now, one of the symptoms of depression and other mental health issues is procrastination. Now, oftentimes, procrastination serves as an unhealthy way to manage stress, avoid uncomfortable situations, or even dealing with perfectionism. And I bring up perfectionism because, as you know, Black women deal with perfectionism a lot, especially those who have the strong Black woman syndrome. And again, as you know, the strong Black woman syndrome can create pressure on us to excel in multiple roles and multiple spaces while neglecting personal needs, which then leads to procrastination as a coping mechanism to manage overwhelming tasks. Before we jump into this topic, I just want to remind y'all, listen, I'm not a clinician. I don't have no license in no mental health. I am just a person with lived experience. But I will tell you, I'm an expert. I'm an expert at being a Black woman. I'm an expert at being a Black woman with depression. I'm an expert about being a Black woman with depression who needs to be productive. All righty. So please do not use this episode of the Mental Health Mentor as a substitute for therapy. If you are having some acute symptoms, please call 988 from your phone. And again, this is for informational purposes only. All right. So now, who do we have here on the podcast? We have Alicia Smith, better known as Coach Lee. She is an attorney by day and an author, motivation guru, and professional hype woman by night. She is a certified master life coach who actually began her coaching career as an online health coach, helping others across the country to reach their fitness and nutrition goals. Because she was such an amazing health coach, folks often told her she should become a life coach. Right? Duh. But she brushed it off to focus on her legal career. Then, guess who came knocking? Rona, the pandemic hit. And suddenly she had more time on her hands. So she obtained her life coach certification and started helping entrepreneurs improve their productivity. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my good friend, Coach Lee to the Mental Health Mentorship.
Hey girl,
Hey,
hey.
girl, hey. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on. I'm so glad you are here. So I gave a little brief introduction. If you want to expand upon your background and tell us a little bit about, why you embarked on this life coach journey and helping folks with their productivity.
I did it for y'all. I didn't do it for me. And I don't mean that like to be funny. Like legit. People were telling me for years, like, you should be a coach. You should be a coach. You're so motivating. You're so encouraging. Like, how do you do all this stuff? And I'm like, what you talking about? Like, I'm just living life. And I didn't really realize that people truly struggled with productivity or creating this work-life balance and having this balance, because from first starting like at the public defender's office, like when I first became an attorney, a couple years in, like I started doing basketball. So I was refereeing basketball across 3 different counties, meal prepping, going to the gym, work, like, and it was like, how you do all this stuff? And I'm like, what you talking about? Like, just schedule it, like you just do it. And legit, it was like, when I'm telling them to just schedule all this stuff, they're like, why don't you be a life coach? And I'm like, I don't have time to be a life coach. You tell God you don't got time to do something, and he'll laugh at you. Like you said, pandemic happened. Thankfully, I didn't lose my job, but the court system was shut down. Like, yes, people were still getting arrested, and yes, we still had to do our job, but they also were maintaining social distancing, even in that way as well. So making sure that we only came to work a certain number of days. And at that point, because the world is shutting down, people have their kids home and all of that. It was like, we don't need you logged in from 8 to 5. Like, whenever you get your work done, you get your work done. I'm naturally a morning person. So for me, that still meant I was getting my work done in the morning. But every day by like 12 o'clock, I'm like, all right, I'm done with my work for the day. Like, what y'all want me to do now? I'm like, it's only so many walks I can go on, because during when the world shut down, they still said go for walks because they thought that was how you kept the mucus out your lungs and all of that stuff. So I'm like, it's only so many walks I can go on. I've already worked out. Restaurants and stuff is closed. I'm not leaving my house, so I'm the healthiest I've never been, because I'm eating the food that's at my house. I'm not eating out. I'm working out. I'm going for walks. The library, I'm getting all the books. It's only so much stuff I can watch on TV. And I did this 1,000-piece puzzle. I don't know how many times. What else can I do? Because I'm about to lose it. We was like 2 weeks into the pandemic at that point. And so all the thoughts started coming back of everyone saying, you're motivating, you're encouraging, you should be a life coach. So I was like, okay, I got time now. Let me look into it. Start Googling, because probably the attorney in me, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to just show up one day and say I'm a life coach. I'm going to get the training. I'm going to get the certification to do so. I made it halfway through the first video. And when I say the first video was like 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, this, I see it. This is why they're saying I should be a coach. Got it. And I was hooked.
Yeah, that's amazing. And everybody else during the pandemic, right? We was like drinking alcohol, eating DoorDash. She over here getting life coach certification. Now I remember how you motivated me way a few years ago, back when I had my weight loss journey. And as you can see, I'm being unsupervised. I gained all that, that weight back, right? Whether it's a life coach, a business coach, a health coach, why do you think some people need, or at least do better when they have a coach on their team?
I say it's because of accountability. People need that accountability. Like when me, and I know Erica's on here, like when me, you, Erica, and I think it was a couple other of us, like when we were doing it, it was the accountability. It was like, oh, she ahead of me on my steps. Let me go get my steps in. She done, how she done did that? She done drank this water. So it was the competitive aspect of it, but really it was the accountability. Knowing that someone is looking for you, knowing that someone cares, knowing that someone is checking for you is often what someone needs to do, because as women and as Black women, we often put ourselves on the back burner. We show up and do for everyone else, that rarely do we have someone asking us, are you okay? Did you do the thing you said you were going to do? How can I help you to do it? So to me, it really comes back to accountability, which is why I knew accountability was a big part of what it was that I was going to do. Like when I first started coaching, I didn't have the productivity part quite nailed down. So I was like life and accountability coach, because I knew for me, accountability was what it came down to. So accountability is why some people do better with coaches, because they need that added.
I'm not gonna lie. When we had to download that MyFitnessPal, we were all like loading our water intake and our caloric intake and our exercises. I was like, damn, I didn't go to the gym. Damn, I gotta go on this treadmill before I don't want to hear Alicia's mouth. I was embarrassed, y'all. Now, before we go any further, because we had mentioned in my early disclaimer that, this is called the Mental Health Mentor. This is not called the Mental Health Therapist Show, right? And so, from your understanding, what is for the people out there, what is the difference between a life coach and a therapist?
So when I think about it, like initially, therapy to me is diving into the past, is looking at those past experiences, traumas, emotions, healing that to be able to better understand the present you. Why are you the way you are, essentially? And they give you tools to kind of unpack the past. And often when you unpack in the past, it remanifests stuff in the present and in the future. But coaching, on the other hand, is more forward focused. So where are you now? I'm here now, and this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be. So it's more about like identifying those goals, coming up with strategies, action plans, helping you to overcome obstacles. Because like in therapy, there are going to be obstacles when you're working through the past. Whereas in coaching, there's often obstacles when you're going towards the future. Like, what are these roadblocks that are going to keep me from getting to my goals? So to me, coaching is like that accountability. It's that cheerleader. That's the person who's helping to guide you, to help steer you, and to keep moving forward. So therapy is more past focused and delving into those deep rooted issues, whereas coaching is more having someone to collaborate with to help you tackle your goals and challenges. But I think even within them, there's still some similarities, because a coach, kind of like a therapist, kind of guides you to the right answer, but ultimately it's for you to choose it on your own so that you can then be more accountable to wanting to do it. Because we're not trying to be like, oh, I'm telling you, you need to do this. Like, you need to decide that's what you want to do for yourself, because that's going to help go towards the deeper why of why it is that you ultimately want to do it.
I'm so glad that you described it that way, because like I remember I had a therapist, not the one that I have now, I love her to death. But I had a therapist at one point where I would talk to her about, okay, let me back up a little bit. So I work a full-time job and I also have a business, which is Mindful Melanated. And so I was telling her, like, I'm not successful in my business. And, I'm starting to feel some type of way about it. Like, I don't know if I should quit. I don't know if I should be entrepreneur, this and that. And she like was like trying to give me like business advice. Like, oh, have you went to different hospitals and did like speeches on peer support? And I'm like, and I didn't want to be like rude or mean, but I'm thinking to myself, like, you're supposed to be like helping me process my feelings around this, not giving me advice on how you're not a business coach. And so needless is what's the word I was looking for? Obviously she's not my therapist anymore, because I was like, anyway. But yeah, so it's two different things. Like a therapist will diagnose you, help you unpack things, process things, whereas a coach, I see coaching as like short-term goal, like they help you with short-term stuff moving forward. Whereas I feel like therapy is like, so you can have a therapist forever, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you can have a coach forever. And I think there are overlaps in coaching and therapy, in the sense of like, I've been working on this certification for what's called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. That's something that therapists also use, because it goes to the mind and the mindset. So there are some modalities and trainings and information that you can learn that also happens in therapy, but that happens in coaching, but you're still approaching it from those two different angles.
Right. So two different angles, folks. So don't get it twisted. Coach Lee is a coach. That's why coach is in front of her name. She ain't no therapist. So very, very different, but they use, like she said, different, the same modality sometimes. So a lot of us have therapists right now, but some of us don't have coaches right now. So why employ both a therapist and a life coach? You kind of talked about it. But if someone's like, well, I can just use my therapist to motivate me, I don't need a life coach.
I think you just explained why they don't, because you was there for therapy and you try to get coaching, and that turned you off from it, essentially. But really, besides the different aspects of what it focuses on, you need a coach. Like, what you need in the moment kind of helps you define if you need a coach. So like for me, I'm a productivity and accountability coach. So if you're trying to be more productive, achieve your goals, coaching might be your go-to in that regard. And with coaching, there's different type of coaches that focus on different things. There are coaches who might focus on trauma and grief, separate from therapy. But depending on what it is you need in the moment, you can kind of find a coach that does that thing. Just like when you're looking for a therapist, if you're like, okay, I'm struggling with this and I want to make sure that I have like maybe a Christian aspect to it or something like that, you're probably not going to maybe sign up with a therapist that doesn't kind of infuse that other side. So it's all about what it is that you need, because coaching, like therapy, should be customized to you as the person. So if you're like, I got a therapist, but do I need a coach? It depends. Are you trying to get further ahead in life? Are there goals that you want to achieve? Like, are you pushing for more in the future? Now that you're unpacking this past and you're becoming this new version of yourself, as you pulling back these layers to the onion, how do you want to transform that person in the future? So I think they go hand in hand together. And there might be a time where you might be working with a therapist or not with a coach, or you might be working with a coach and not a therapist. And there might be a time when you good and you need neither.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that because, it's just like a restaurant, like the kitchen. You have the executive chef, you have the sous chef, you have the people who do the prep, right? But they all helping to make that one meal. So you can use different support systems for different things, right? So I've been told by my therapist that I have imposter syndrome. Now she's helping me process my thoughts, feelings, and emotions about this. But as a life coach, how could you help me with that?
So I think first it comes to like defining imposter syndrome. Now therapy, they're gonna help you unpack where your imposter syndrome might have originated from. But now that we understand that you have imposter syndrome, that's essentially a mindset thing. So what can you do to fix that? And so like when I think of imposter syndrome, it's kind of like that feeling of not being enough, of being a fraud, of not belonging. It's kind of like your mind is playing tricks on you when you like, it's almost like not really the angel and devil, but kind of like that angel and devil when you like, yes, no, and you like, I don't know which one it is. It's them letting your mind play tricks on you and like pouring doubt into you and not really belittling, but in some ways like belittling or doubting yourself, like imposter, like you don't feel like the real you, the true you. And so like as a coach, and like I mentioned, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, like rewiring like your thoughts and your mindset and helping you to build that confidence to become better, I guess you can say. I don't want to say become better because I'm not saying that you're not a good person, but essentially challenging those limiting beliefs and challenging those thoughts that you have to shift and to move into this better place, to like uncover those negative beliefs, but in uncovering those negative beliefs, see where your strengths actually lie, and then flipping the script to step into and own the better version of yourself.
Love that. And we have a comment on Instagram. Thumper521 says, and Coach Lee doesn't play. She will hold you accountable even when you don't want to listen. Woo child. Thumper ain't never lying. Hence why I uninstalled my fitness pal from my phone. I don't want to hear it. No, let me stop. Okay. So let's talk about some practical stuff now. Let's get to like the nitty gritty. Okay, so you're an attorney. You're a life coach. You wrote a book, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. You was playing basketball. You do your meal prep every Sunday. Like, how do you do? Like, what? Okay, are you an android? Are you a robot? Because how do you do it, girl?
I got an Android phone, but I'm not an Android. So to me, and this is things that I'm continuing to like learn about myself, even like in this process, is that that's just how I've always been. But I think it's because of how I was raised. Like we were latchkey kids growing up. So I had to learn to be a little bit more self-sufficient, like early on. Like my mom was a 911 dispatcher, so she worked those 2 days on, 2 days off. So it was like, hey, y'all up for school? Yes, ma'am. Okay, breakfast is on the stove. Call me before you leave the house. Okay, we got to make sure we make the bus because my mama at work. Like my granddad through the backyard, but like my mama at work, my daddy already gone. So it was like those little things of like building that up, of being able to like get up on my own, or, with the alarm going off, like managing my time in elementary school. So, managing this time to make sure that I'm waking myself up, going through my morning routine, getting me some breakfast, and making sure I'm getting out the door on time to the school bus to take my little happy self to school. And so, like, I start thinking about these things kind of like going back when people are like, when did this start for you? And I'm like, I guess it's kind of always been there because I've always been like, I love learning. So, like, school was always fun for me. So, like, I never wanted to miss it. I remember one time it was spring break. I think I was in 5th grade and my brother would have been in 3rd grade. My mama didn't want to go to like Washington for spring break. And I'm like, no, it wasn't spring break. They were going like opposite of spring break. I don't know why, but it was involved missing school. And I was like, I got perfect attendance. Like, I can't really go with y'all to DC because I didn't be in school, but it's perfect attendance. They let me stay with my grandparents to maintain my perfect attendance. But I think like since I was little, that's kind of how I've been. And so it's just evolved as I've gotten older and shifted in the different ways that I've shown up. So like from elementary school to middle school, from high school and doing collegiate high school to undergrad to law school. And then as you evolve in these different areas of life, these different things that are added on. So I guess it's kind of always been there. And then I just always tweaked them like, okay, this ain't working no more. Like what worked, in high school isn't working in college. Like what about that still stands? And what changes can I make to make it better, to improve?
So I heard a couple of things. I'm hearing time management. You use time management. You mentioned schedules before, calendars. And the last point you just made that you mentioned that you, depending on where you are in life, you tweak your method, right? Because the time management skills you need while you're in law school is going to be different from when you were in high school, right? Naturally. So it's not something that's going to be static, right? It's something that's dynamic.
Yes.
So let's talk about the book, Lee's Laws of Productivity. So first of all, how did you come up with I know you're an attorney, but how did you come up with the title? Tell me.
My business name is Legal Lee, which goes to note to attorney, I'm Coach Lee. So I needed, the law had to come in there a little bit. Like obviously I'm a productivity and accountability coach. So the book is about productivity. So Lee's Law. So like, look, I have no desire to ever be a judge, to be a senator, to be anything like that. So I'm like, this is my chance to make some laws. Lee's Laws of Productivity it is.
I know that's right. So in your book, you mentioned we've overcomplicated productivity. Now, what do you mean by that and how do we simplify it?
Everyone thinks that getting things done is so hard. But what if you think about productivity as what do you want to do? When do you want to do it? How are you going to do it? Like we think because productivity is a big word, we suddenly think that getting things done is hard. But really, in our day-to-day life, we do so much stuff, whether that be watching Netflix, taking a nap, scrolling on social media. We're doing stuff all the time. But what things are you doing that's going to help move you forward in life, go after your goals and things like that? So productivity isn't hard. Like doing things isn't hard. We do stuff all the time. We drive our car, we talk on the phone, we listen to music, even the simple stuff like I brushed my teeth, I took a shower. Like we literally do things all the time and every day. But what things like are you doing out of habit, but a habit that isn't serving you versus a habit that is serving you? And so I think the way that we simplify it is kind of breaking it down. Like, I don't want to say dumbing it down, but essentially dumbing it down, like simplify it. Like you tell kids to go tie their shoe, to go pick this up, to go do this. Simplify it. Think of it and look at it that exact same way. What do you want to do? When do you want to do it by? And how are you going to get it done? So like, what do you want to do is the task. When do you want to do it by? That's the deadline. How am I going to do it? That's essentially the game plan to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how you put that because I'm somebody who always feels like I need to be doing something. And like the day will go by and I would be like, I didn't get shit done today. The day has I just wasted a whole day. And for a long time, that contributed to my depression because part of my self-worth, self-esteem, whatever you want to call it, I value productivity and quality of my work product. So if I feel like I've wasted a day, I feel like such a loser. But a few years ago, I started writing. So you know how people make a things to do list? I started making a things I did list at the end of the day. I would write down that list. There'd be 20 damn things on that list. Like, Regina, you did do something today. So to your point, we're doing things all the time. We're brushing our teeth. We're making our bed. We're driving to work. We're checking the email. Okay, no, we didn't finish the dashboard. That's the one thing we didn't do, but because we didn't do that one thing, we feel like, oh my God, the day is wasted. So I like how you put it, how simplify it. Like, just think about productivity is not this big production. Productivity is just you're doing something.
Yeah.
It's just you
And
doing
then we
something.
have to also simplify the tasks that we're doing, because like you mentioned with the list that you just made, the dashboard. Now you probably, if you was realistic with yourself, now you probably knew in one day you couldn't do that dashboard. That's probably like an 8-hour project. When you was gonna get that done? You went to work for 8 hours, 10, 12 if you count, the commute time, lunch time, the time you asleep in the morning, the time you going to bed at night. What you set yourself up on that one. And that's what we do. We set ourselves up with these big tasks instead of breaking it down like, okay, for the dashboard, I'm going to get A through B done today. Or I'm going to get the framework for it, so I just have to input the data. I don't really necessarily know what a dashboard is, but like whatever the project is, we need to start. Don't put the project on the to-do list. Put the tasks that make up the project on the to-do list. So that once you start checking it off, you like, okay, I made the website for the dashboard. I got the landing page ready. I got the website copy. And as you go through each day of the week, by Friday, Saturday, you're like, I got the dashboard done.
You see, first, this is why I like you but don't like you. Because first of all, you read me. How is you gonna get all that done in one day? But two, you broke it down. Duh. Like you said, you dumbed it down. All right. Well, tomorrow for work, because tomorrow is what, Wednesday, hump day? That's the day that I usually take to assess what I have done so far, what needs to be done by Friday. So I'm going to take your approach. I'm going to do the approach that you just said. Just break it down by the task, not the project. Right? Okay, got it. So you may have touched on this a little bit by answering the previous question, but how does the Lee method of productivity differ from like other methods we see out there? Like, I know some people that use SMART goals, for example. Do you incorporate SMART goals? Is your method a little different from SMART goals?
So I think I used to subscribe to the belief of SMART goals. And I'm not saying that I don't steal, but I think I look at it a little bit differently. And there's this other thing called dumb goals. I can't remember what those stand for, but it's also an acronym. But I guess I'm kind of like in the middle, because so the Lee method is 3 simple words: look, examine, execute. So it's kind of like, I guess it's the SMART goals framework, but different. So I'm telling you to look at what it is that you want to do. Examine is like working on creating that game plan. How is it that you're going to go about do the thing, and execute? Go do it.
Still do it.
And so, SMART goals is about being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So when you're looking at what it is you need to do, examining, like, so you're still setting that framework of like, when do I need to get it done by, what is it made up of, things like that. But I think sometimes, because I know in the SMART goals framework, sometimes some of the letters can mean, you can change it to like realistic or reliable, time bound versus time sensitive. So depending on how you look at it, it might get complicated, because sometimes when I think about the SMART goals, like when I first read it, I'm like, well, what's the difference between attainable and realistic? What's the difference between attainable and time bound? Like specific and measurable, they kind of go together, because like if I'm being specific, that means measurable is about being able to know when it is you achieved it. So it's not that it's not the SMART goal framework, because I'm not calling it SMART goals, but it's using, and a lot of things, really, it's nothing new under the sun. It's just different approaches to the same thing. And so it's me looking at what it is that I've done and I've been doing to show and see how it's been happening. Because like even once I wrote the book, I kind of like put it on the shelf essentially and never really looked back at it. But when I was going through the editing process to go through publishing, I'm like, Girl, you've been using the lead method, not calling it the lead method, even though you wrote this book calling it the lead method all this time. That's
that Black girl magic right there. That's all I have to say. We so good, we don't even know how good we are, right? So, well, like, what do you say to people? Like, for me, when I'm planning out what I'm gonna do, and I do like you said, like I write the project, but then I break it down with the objectives and what's the thing under object? I don't remember. Anyway, I just get so overwhelmed with the examination part that I'd be like, forget it. I don't feel like doing nothing at all.
a couple things. One is ask yourself why you overwhelmed, why you can't. Because oftentimes we get overwhelmed because we haven't simplified it enough. We're still thinking about that angel and devil on the shoulder. What if this don't go right? Well, what if I don't finish it on time? Well, what if I don't? Well, what if I like? What if? What if you do finish it? What if you do it? So, like for me personally, when I find myself overwhelmed, it's typically because I need to do a brain dump. I'm trying to keep it all up here instead of putting it down here. And so sometimes we'll go through this time of making these projects and making these to-do lists, and sometimes the to-do list feels too heavy. And I get that, because if you like, I'm going to build a website, it's a lot of steps to that. But if you start like break the project down into projects, so it's like, this is the master to-do list. Master, this is the ultimate completion of the project. What parts then make it up? Like, is there the back end, the testing, the confirmation? Like, I'm just making up words here, but like, you know, when you have these different projects, like what parts make up the whole? So like, if I'm attorney, if I'm working on prepping a trial, first for me, I need to get all my discovery together. I got to make sure I know what my client charged with. Then I'm getting like the jury instructions and all of that stuff together. Then I'm reading through it, and then I'm trying to start picking out the issues and the holes. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you complete the project? One bite at a time. Yes. If you were to look at that elephant and be like, eat that elephant, no, baby, I can't do it. But if I just start taking a bite piece by piece, you're going to get full in the process. You're going to have to take some breaks, let it digest, regroup. Okay, maybe let me go to a different part and start over there now, because this part right here might be a little tough. Let me go to a soft spot. It's the same thing with these projects. Are you going to get overwhelmed? Realistically, yeah. Like, to say that you're not going to be overwhelmed is unrealistic.
So we talked a lot about how we can use the lead method to tackle projects, but how do we use it to tackle people? Because, you know, as Black women, we're everything to everybody all the time, right? And we suffer from this strong Black woman syndrome, right? So, you know, we have to go to work and we have to come home, you know, and straighten up, cook for the kids. And we have to make sure that we bake the muffins for the church bake sale. And then we have to make sure we design the flyer for the women's club's event on. So, like, how do you juggle the different roles that you play in your life?
Take care of yourself first. Self-care isn't selfish. Like, pouring into you first is important because of the fact that we're multifaceted. No matter, and you know, the number of roles we play, you keep leveling up, you keep adding to them. But we have to first like look at ourselves, like empower yourself first. Look at your worth. Like, why do you find it so important to show up for them? Because you don't want to disappoint them, but you're okay with disappointing yourself. Why? When you having a bad day, you know how to check on your strong friends. Oftentimes we are the strong friends.
Right?
Like, who's there checking for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see all this in other people. What do you see in yourself? And so I think it kind of comes back to the reality is that we do things for other people, sometimes out of obligation or out of guilt, but sometimes we do it truly because we care. Like, we do like people generally. And so we do these things for them because we care about them and we want to encourage them, but who's encouraging you? And so I think that it comes back to realizing that I found that when I take care of me first, it gives more capacity for others. Like, when I fill my cup first, I'm giving from the overflow, and I don't feel like, not just the stressed out old woman about it, I don't feel guilty or like, man, I could have been reading my book right now, but I read my book first and then I showed up for you. So I'm like, I took care of my stuff.
Oh,
Now I
okay.
don't feel resentment or guilty or whatever type different variation of that word you want to use about being here.
Yeah.
Because think about the times when you go and you do stuff for other people and you know you didn't take care of yourself first. You sitting there like, if the event don't start on time, well, if I would have left my house an hour later, I could have took care of what I needed to take care of for me. Because if I knew they was
Oh,
time,
you said
oh,
that.
they said so
Oh.
and so was coming. Oh, this was $50 more than they told me it was supposed to be. Now I'm mad about spending this money. I didn't really want to be here. Now it's cold and I'm about to catch a cold because I'm out here in the streets when I could have been in my warm house. But not saying you won't still have them thoughts sometimes when you do for yourself first, but you'll have a little bit less resentment because you like, I meal prepped, I took my shower, I went and got me a massage, I whatever it was for you
Mhm.
that potentially would be taken over by this time, you've done it. And so we have to stop saying yes so quick. I try to tell people no first. Or if I don't have my phone, i.e. my calendar with me. When is that? Like, let me get back to you on that. Like, let me get back to you on that. And then either weasel my way out of it if I don't want to go. Because so often we say yes because we feel like they're asking us at that moment that we got to say yes. But if you take even that 5-second pause, you're like, girl, I know I don't want to do that. I'm not even a lot of people. Oh,
Can I just say something? A lot of people say self-care is not selfish. You got to pour into yourself before you pour into other people. I mean, you said it too, but the way you explained it, you were the first person to like break it down where it's like easy for me to understand, easy for me to consume. Because people they say those things and it sounds really lofty, right? It sounds lofty, but the way you explained it is very practical. Well, of course you're not going to get mad that you went, to the thing and it started late because you finished your project already. You did your laundry, so you're not mad. Because I
it's
know,
almost like you out celebrating yourself at that point.
y'all, this is Coach Lee. She is the author of Lee's Laws of Productivity. If you tired of being everything to everyone all the damn time, you need to holler at Coach Lee because she is dropping some gems. I hope y'all are listening. I hope y'all are listening, taking notes. All right, so we had a few questions from the Mindful and Melanated community. Um, we have about 3 questions.
Okay.
So you kind of answered some of them, but I do want to honor that the community members did ask these questions. So I do want to honor them and make sure we ask. So this person says, I am a multi-passionate person. Ideas run through my head nonstop and it overwhelms me. What are some tools that I can use to help me with all my ideas, help me do all my ideas without getting overwhelmed?
Do a brain dump, i.e., everything that's in your head, write it on paper. I don't care if things start coming to your head. So, for example, let's just say you're doing a brain dump about work, about the project you're working on at work, but stuff for home starts coming up, write it down.
Oh,
Like, I don't care what aspect of life the thing that's in your head is applying to when you're writing it down. Get it out of your head. Stop trying to hold space for it. How often do you walk from your room to the kitchen and you like, I came over here for something. You like, what was it? Because you kept telling yourself, I'm gonna remember when I get there, and you don't. Get it out of your head. So brain dump. So I say brain dump and to-do list. They're different. They're not they're interchangeable, but they're different. So brain dump for me is everything that's in my head. I'm getting it on paper. And then to-do list, because sometimes you got things that's in your head that you don't actually have to do anything with. It's just in your head.
yeah.
Or it's in your head for later. Like you might start thinking like my birthday is this month, so I have to renew my car registration. I've done it already, but a couple months ago when I started looking at cars in front of me, I started thinking about the fact that in a couple months I need to renew my car registration.
Mhm.
I just put on the to-do list. So like I got it out of my head, even though this wasn't something that needed to be done today, tomorrow, even this month, like now it does, but then it didn't. So you do the brain dump and just get everything that's in your head on the paper. And once you have it on the paper, then you can make the to-do list. So when you say you're having a million ideas running through your head, you're trying to keep them all in your head. Get them out of your head and on the paper. I'm a mix between like paper and like electronic to-do lists, like my brain dumps, I write them on paper first and get the messiness that's in here. It'd be messy on the paper when I write it out. And then I clean it up and turn it into a to-do list. Because once I transfer it to that to-do list, then I'm starting to say and prioritize, when am I doing this? Is it something for today, this week, this month, or the future? I use a program called Asana. It's like a project management tool, and you use it a lot more like in business and things like that. But I use it for myself. Like I have a board that says to-do list. My grocery list is in there, like my master shopping list. So like, you know how sometimes you always be like, you'd be like, oh, I need to get a new white sweater, but like, I don't really need it right now. I just put it on the master shopping list. So that number one, when Christmas come up and people are like, what can I get you for Christmas or your birthday? What's on this list? Bam. I don't got to think about what I want. Just something from the list. But I organize it in that way. And then I have a separate Asana board for my business that's broken down with like my content and different things like that. But I break it up and I segment. So like within my to-do list, I have due today, due this week, this month, and then a section that literally just says future to do. And then I made a new section because I started having some like, I need to do this, but it don't really have a specific date. So I made it like a miscellaneous / upcoming to do. So I can just like put like ideas there that don't necessarily have due dates. So get it out of your head, get it on the paper, and then turn that brain dump into to-do lists and tasks that you can then implement. And don't go straight to electronic. Start with paper. Don't worry about making it look pretty. Just start, like you have to start somewhere because like I said, people probably heard me say like, I do paper and I do electronic. And they're like, you doing the most, girl. But I've figured out the parts that work good on paper and the parts that work good electronically. Like I need the messiness on paper first so I can organize it on the computer. Because Asana, it syncs with my phone. It's on the computer. Like it's cloud-based, so it can go with me. Because sometimes you'll start seeing that if you can't remember to carry that journal with you all the time, your to-do list gonna be at home and you at work, like, what I'm supposed to be doing today? So just start. Like, get it out of your head, get it onto paper, and then just start one task at a time.
I'm gonna say two things. One, you know those people in life, like they may be your friend, they may be a friend of me, they may be a coworker, who just like always has it together. Like their kids are always neat and put together. They're always the first person in church. They don't mind volunteering for the blood drive, and they're just like never tired. Like you're that person, but you give us the tools to be that person. I love it.
But I don't want y'all to feel like I never
person.
struggle with productivity, because I still do. Like I still have those ebbs and flows, but then I still lean into that. So like if I'm like tired and like I don't have much energy to do stuff, what's something that I can do to still move myself forward that doesn't involve a lot of brain power? Because productivity, again, is doing something.
The gems are being dropped. I hope y'all are taking notes. Like she said, put it on paper. All right. Next question from the community. This person says, I sometimes beat myself up when I'm not as productive as I. Oh, you kind of touched on this. I sometimes beat myself up when I'm not as productive as I would like to be. How do I practice self-compassion and grace when I don't accomplish all the tasks that I set out to accomplish?
Number one, pretend you with somebody else. If somebody else told you those things that they got done, would you tell them, oh, you did good? You did, like, with everything you had going on, like, you did great. If somebody else told you the things that they got done, would you tell them they didn't do enough, or would you tell them that they did enough?
Right.
Because imposter syndrome kicks in and you like, I didn't do enough. But then even the thing that you said, Regina, the flip side, write all the things, like, this was the list of things I wanted to do. Here's what I actually got done. So then give yourself that self-compassion by looking at the things that you want to get done. Look, I make to-do lists every day and I don't get everything done on the to-do list because life happens. Like, for example, at work, I might get stuck in court longer than I was planning on being in court, or a coworker might need something, or, you know, any number of things can happen. And the things that was on my to-do list had to adjust and pivot. The other thing to do is stop putting so much stuff on the to-do list. Choose like 3 tasks. Number one, you'll feel accomplished when you cross those 3 off and you like, it's only 10 o'clock and I'm done. Or, you know, whatever time of the day it is, like, even if it's 4 o'clock, whatever. But stop putting so much on this to-do list. Like we started talking about earlier, like with the dashboard example, we underestimate how long it takes to get something done.
That is true.
If you start setting timers for yourself when you start doing something, you'll see it take you longer to do the thing, even when you're 100% focused on it. So put less things on the to-do list. So I guess the order would be number one, if somebody else was telling you those things that you would do, what would you tell them? Number two, put less things on the to-do list. And number three would be write down the things that you did do.
Right. So her number three, and just like I said, I make things I did list, right? And so I actually created a worksheet called the things I did list. So if you want that free download, put in the comments things I did, and you will get that free of charge. Now, free of charge, just write down what you did. And you know what? I also have a column for who did you do it for?
Ooh.
And I remember one time I did my things I did list, and I wrote down who I did it for.
And none of them for you.
None of them was for me. Not one. Excuse me. Not one. Ain't that something? All right, our last community question. I am very structured and organized. My coworkers, not so much. How do I get folks to fall in line with my productivity style?
You don't. Stop putting yourself on other people. You change yourself first. Okay. But like for real, because we can't control other people.
Yeah.
When you start putting up boundaries around what you will and won't accept, they're going to have to fall in line or they're going to have to get lost. I don't try to change my coworkers, but because I don't try to change them, like when I start walking off in the middle, I'm like, I got work to do. They was like, at least you want to go do work. Y'all been over here sitting kiki cackling for the last hour. I got stuff to do. I even do it with my boss because sometimes like I'll come into her office and she'll say like this, and I'm like, I'll come back when you're done. She'll be like, no, it'll be a minute. So I'll sit down. She'll answer my question, and then she'll start talking about something else. And then other people come and I just get up and leave. Where you going? To my office to work. I'm just talking. And I realize I don't really like the people a lot. So sometimes I just like, it's too many people in here. I need to move myself. But for real, like when it comes to, if you're structured and organized, your coworkers aren't. I guess the first question would be like, sometimes coworkers means collaborative. So are y'all coworkers in the sense of whatever you're doing truly does impact them, or you're impacted by what they do or don't do? Like, is it a collaborative style, or is it just I'm around here doing work and my coworkers aren't? Because I can be productive in my office and they can be down there kiki cackling and that doesn't affect me. Right. But if I need them on the project that we're working on, for example, and they kiki cackling, but I'm trying to get stuff done and they're not, then that's a different thing. And I think if it's that case, you do your work and then you bring it to them like, hey, done my part. Do you think you can have this back to me by X date? Can we set a calendar? Can we set an appointment to check in? Calendar invite that bad boy. So everybody knows, like, communicate, but don't per se over communicate in the sense of like, don't try to force you down their throat, but communicate your expectations, what it is you need, the deadlines, the timelines, whatever that might look like. If this is a collaborative project that y'all are working on together. Now, if y'all just co-workers and your work is your work and they work as they work, keep it moving. Don't try to change them. Keep being you, and in you being you, people will start seeing that. Like, me being the way that I am has led to when the new people start to like go to her to get organized. Go to her if you struggling with figuring out how to organize your files. Go to her, and that's fine. But you show up and be you, just like if you was hanging out with your friends. Are you going to change who you are for the friends that you're with? Do you want your friends to change who they are to hang out with you? Coworkers are the same way.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, y'all heard it. Set up them boundaries now. Okay, so we are at the tail end of our talk here. How can folks find you, follow you on social media? How can they hire you?
I am legally.me everywhere. LEGALLEE.me. That's the website. That's Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, Facebook, YouTube. I think is without the dot or something. But that's me everywhere. Find me, follow me, connect with me. Book a call, free 20-minute calls called a personalized productivity audit, because it's personalized to you to figure out what it is that is or isn't working in your life, in your schedule, all the things. Yeah, I mean, just you can send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, send me a message wherever, and we can connect and we can go from there.
I'll see how our free call is 20 minutes. Most people, they do their free call 30 minutes. She said 20. Get it in and out.
You know why? Because I got a questionnaire that you answer before we get on the call, so I already know what we're coming to the call with.
Y'all heard it. All right, so where can we find your book, Lee's Laws of Productivity?
It is on Amazon. It is, and I know it depends on when this drops, but it's on Amazon. You can get it there if you follow me like on Instagram. The link to the Amazon is like in my bio.
Okay.
I think it's on Facebook as well. But send me a message. I can send you the link because I know we're live on Instagram as well. The pre-sale for the book ends on this Saturday, May the 11th, so prices go up. But the Kindle and the paperback version will continue to be available, but it's on Amazon.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much. If you like today's episode, make sure you like it. Make sure you share it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, all the medias, all the social medias. If you want to sit in our sister circle, if you want to get more deep dives, ask me anything, Q&As with our mental health mentors, join our sister circle, join our community. You can do that via Patreon. That is www.patreon.com/mindfulmelanated. And make sure to comment below and tell us like the gems you picked up that she dropped down for y'all, right? And if you have any productivity hacks, tips, and tricks, share that with us too. We want to get this discussion on and popping. Again, I just want to thank you, Coach Lee, for joining us and letting us pick your brain about how to get shit done. And that's it for this episode of the Mental Health Mentor. I am Regina Renaye, aka Regina the Mindfulnista. Signing off.